Hello and welcome to this MidVision RapidDeploy overview tutorial part 2, and in this part we're going to do a demonstration showing some of the features that we outlined in part 1. Okay, so firstly we're going to download and install RapidDeploy. I'm going to download the latest version from here. I just can click on this link and it will download RapidDeploy. Now that takes a few minutes to download as it's quite a large zip file, and I've already got one downloaded here on my desktop. So I'm just going to unzip it into a new location, and then I'm going to cd into the bin directory, and in there you can see we've got some scripts, and I'm just going to run the start web app script. And that's going to unzip Java that's installed or contained within the zip file, and it's going to start the application in Tomcat 9. Okay, so if you want to see if that's running, you can just do a ps and grep for Java. We can see that that is in fact running. So now we can go to our web page. In this case I'm just connecting to localhost 9090 MidVision, and you always log in with mvadmin. mvadmin is the first user created. Strongly advise you of course to change that password, and at this point you get the opportunity to agree or disagree to send telemetry data to MidVision. I'm going to just agree to that. Okay, and then here we are logged in the main console. So the first thing I'm going to do is go on to job plans, and I'm going to upload a job plan that I created previously with everything we need in it to demonstrate some of the features we showed in the initial tutorial. So I'm going to choose a file, and here it is. I'm going to import that zip file. We can see there that's successfully imported. We now have the job plan here. Okay, well I'm not going to look at that job plan straight away. Let's first go back and look at the infrastructure in RapidDeploy. You can get to the infrastructure in two ways. You can either click on this link up here. So the three links that will take you to the three main areas in RapidDeploy up here for creating and editing resources. There's the project link, there's the infrastructure link, and there's the libraries link. And then for your information over here, there are 4 more links. This one will take us to my job plans, this one previous jobs, this one running jobs, and this one future or scheduled jobs. And then we've got some help here and some system resources here. We can also set user preferences here, so we can look at about me, preferences, we can change our password and log out. I am actually just going to change the preferences here, and I'll move this left-hand menu that we've got over here to top left. So now the menu just appears up here. And this is the other way that you can get to these various resources. Got the resources here where we can go to projects, infrastructure and libraries, and we can see my job plans, running jobs and operations view and so on. So I'm just going to go to have a look at the infrastructure, as I said. And here we can see that the infrastructure that's been imported as part of that job plan. So when we import a job plan, that won't only import all of the projects that are involved in that job plan, it will also import all of the server definitions, will import all of the resource definitions, and everything that we need to just immediately go ahead and run that job plan. You can import and export job plans. You can also import and export individual projects with or without their targets associated with them. Okay, so the 3 target infrastructures I'm interested in are Tomcat Dev, Tomcat Prod, and Tomcat Test. And we have a little twisty here. If we click on that, we can see the installations that are done upon each of those server definitions. Now, if you remember, a server definition is just a logical display name in the tool that actually fronts potentially one or more actual nodes that we deploy to, and potentially that could be controlled by a cloud server. So let's go and have a look at Tomcat Dev by just clicking on that link. And here we can see that the display name, it's grayed out there, you can't change it, but it's Tomcat Dev. And here you can see the host names that we've got added. We've only got one host name added here, it's It's a host that's in EC2 in Amazon, and we've actually got that down there. You can see the OS type is Linux, and we've got the remote build store that we spoke about of /temp. Okay, let's go and have a look at the actual transport. So we're using the SSH, JSCH transport. We could also, of course, use the remoting agent transport. We're connecting to port 22 as usual at this SSH. We're connecting as EC2 user. We've got a PEM file. But we're sudoing to root when we're actually running the deployment job. You may or may not choose to do that. And in this case, we're saying, well, okay, when we sudo to root, we're just going to make sure that Java's installed as well at the latest version before we actually run any deployments. Now, that won't do anything in this case because we already have these servers there and running. And you can also here set environment variables. Now, you can set environment variables when you run scripts or some tasks in RapidDeploy. You can set them on the target server here, and they'll override any environment variables that are actually set in profiles on the target server. Or, of course, if you want to, you can set any environment variables you want on the actual target server. It's up to you. Okay, so backing this, we've also got cloud infrastructure. We're using the Amazon plugin here. You can have different cloud plugins. So we put our access key and our secret key in. We put the client endpoint in, so I'm using the Frankfurt region. And in this case, I'm then just selecting, once I've put those three in, I'll get a list of instances that are available in that region. And here you can see them, and I'm just choosing one. Now I can either choose an existing instance, or I can choose to create a new instance on deployment, if that was set to yes. In this case, we're just going to say, well, we're going to start the instance on deployment if it's not already running. If we choose to create an instance, then we have to choose an AMID that we're going to base it on. We have to give it a name and how many of them we're going to create. So if that was set to 10, then it would create 10 instances with the instance name -1 to 10. And then in the future, when it was trying to do a deployment to this job, it would either create new instances if they didn't already exist, or if that instance name with those 1 to 10 servers already existed, then they'd just be started on the deployment. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the transport tab. The server tab. You can also see here on a separate tab which installations are actually on this server. You can see here we've got 4 installations. We've got a Tomcat 7 install, a Tomcat 8 install, which we won't be using today, a shape script install, which is basically running a script on the target, and a Java runner install, which is basically just running a Java process. We can also see which projects those installations or those definitions come from, and they're listed here. Java Deploy 40, Script Demo 40, Tomcat 7 install, and Tomcat 7 examples web app deployment. Okay, so let's go and have a look at those projects. So here are the various projects that we've got that have been imported into this instance of RapidDeploy. And firstly, I'm going to go and have a look at the Tomcat 7 examples web app deployment project. And when you go into a project, you're immediately brought to the server orchestration page, or the orchestration diagram page. And here you can see the orchestration that's going to run on this target. You add new tasks by clicking up here and selecting from the tasks that are available on the left-hand side. The tasks that you see, as I mentioned in the previous tutorial, are dependent on which plugins you've got installed. You see a number of tasks, from very simple tasks such as string tasks to assign a string to a variable, or make YAML to JSON conversions, or do tests about whether something ends with a certain string or whatever, to much more complicated ones. Here we can go into WebSphere 7, install a WebSphere 7 cluster, install a server, install an application, or run some generic deployment task, which can let you do anything in WebSphere. Okay, and if you click on any one of these tasks, you will also get some help here about how that actually works and all the parameters. And then you just click up here to add that task into the orchestration. And then when we go on the tasks that we've got here, we can just click on any task and see what it's set to. Okay, so this is a simple command runner with response task. It's just running a bash shell with command java -version, and the output's going to the output parameter. It's then just a simple string task here to take the output from that previous task and check that there's 1.8 in it, so we're making sure that Java 1.8 is installed. And the output parameter here will be true or false, whether 1.8 is or isn't installed. We're then checking whether a file or directory exists. Okay, so is the Tomcat 7 installation there, yes or no? And then we're going to check that. And then we're going to say, well, you know, if it doesn't contain it, then we're going to fail. And if it does, then we're going to go on. This is a target-specific task. So this will only run on certain targets in our infrastructure. If we look at this target, it's only going to run in production. This is just going to do a final check against a change management tool, in this case Redmine, to make sure that a certain ticket is in a certain state. In fact, it's closed before it lets us go on. Fail on error here is set to true. So in this case, if it's not in the expected status, that will fail the deployment. In this case, we have this run RD deployment task. This enables you to have one server orchestration call another server orchestration on a different or the same project. So you can get halfway through running something on a particular server and then say, okay, now I need to go and check that a database is in a certain state. In this case, we would be calling a Tomcat DB dev, database server script to go and check that that server is in a certain state before continuing. You can also add manual steps in as well. We're then going to expand the EAR file, and in this case we're going to do a search and replace inside an HTML file in the expanded EAR file that we're deploying, and we're going to change wherever we find hello in the HTML or JSP file to hello at target name. If you remember, this is the way we write in a data dictionary value, at followed by the variable name followed by at, and that will be discovered whenever we save a project. And then you can give it a default value at project scope and then override that at target scope. We're then collapsing the WAR file again, taking that example's web app WAR file. We're going to start the Tomcat server and then run a Tomcat deployment. Okay, so we're taking that web app, and we've got some more data dictionary values which will be different for each target environment, potentially the admin URL, the username and password, and then we're going to end the task. We're not actually running any of these are grayed out, so they're not in use. Okay, so if we go and have a look at that data dictionary, then we can see these data dictionary values. They'll always automatically be discovered. We just need to enter a value. This is at project scope. So we've got a username and a password. And you can see in the target name, which is the thing that we're going to change that hello to hello development environment or hello test or hello production, is unset at this scope. So now if we click on the targets tab, and we went through this in the original tutorial, we can see that we've got 4 targets. Remember, a target is determined by the server, the installation, and the configuration that's set in on this project, and it will also have an environment. Okay, so we've got the Tomcat Dev server, the logical name. We've got the installation of Tomcat 7 and Tomcat 8. This shows how we can have different installations of the same software on the same server if we want to. We can click on any of these links and it will take us to those servers, but we've already had a look at those. So now we can just go and have a look at the configuration, which is the data dictionary values. And we can see here that most of the data dictionary values are inherited from the project scope, except for the target name, which in this case is overridden and set to development, and the username, which is overridden and set to Tomcat in this case. Okay, so let's just go back, and now we're going to go and have a look at the General tab. And on the General tab you can see the available plugins and the actual project plugins that are used by this project. Now they get selected automatically when you select tasks, and they are copied onto the target server so that the classes inside them that run the actual tasks can be used. And then down here we've got the resource list. These are the available resources and these are selected resources. And we've got 2 resources here. We've got a binary install package and the examples web app, and they're being pulled from external sources into the package that we create to do deployments at package creation time. So if we just want to go and see what they are, we can always go on libraries, and this is the set of libraries that are shared between all projects, and projects can select from these libraries to include into their deployment package. So you can either add your resources directly to the project and have the project backed by an SCM repository, so you could put the scripts or whatever directly under the project directory, or you can pull them from an external resource library. So if we go and have a look at one of these, let's just go and have a look at the Tomcat examples web app deployment. I'm just going to open this. So here we're selecting where it's coming from. It's coming from the MidVision site. We can set proxy settings and so on, but the important point is the resource type. This is an HTTP file library, but you can have many different resource types, so you can pull resources from remote file systems, local file systems, you can pull files or folders, you can pull from SCM repositories like Git or Subversion, you can pull from Maven or Nexus or Artifactory, or you can pull, just as I said, from an HTTP file library, as in this case. And those will always be stored under the project, under a resources directory, and then you reference them there in your tasks. Okay, so if we just go back to that project, we spoke about packages. So we don't have any packages yet for any of these projects. So I'm just going to now go ahead and create a package. And now that package is created, that's a point-in-time snapshot of the project as it stands at this time. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to make a quick change now to something that we're not really using. So the Tomcat 8 one, I'm just going to change the variable value of the target name. Save that. Okay, and now I'm going to just create another package, which is now another point-in-time package, but with a slight change. And now I can just really compare those two packages. And we can see here, firstly, that the manifest changed. So we've got a different version number, 1 to 2, and slightly different time that they were created. And we can actually navigate right down into the WAR file, and if there were any changes inside the WAR file, we'd be able to see those on a file-by-file basis. If the WAR file changed from when we created one package to another. But actually what we've really changed here is the data dictionary. And if we have a look at that, you can see here that we changed development to development Tomcat 8. So we can keep track of all of our changes over time quite easily. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create packages for all of the other 3 projects, and then we'll get on and actually run a job. Okay, so I've now created those extra packages. So I'm now just going to go on to the job plans section. We've just got the one job plan that we imported. Just click on that to go and edit it. And here we can see the job plan. So we've got the start node. We're automatically then going to a Tomcat 7 install project. We are going to the Tomcat Dev logical server name. The target is Tomcat Dev, Tomcat 7 binaries. So Tomcat 7 part being the installation, binaries being the name of the configuration that we chose to call, and here in the darker blue we've got Tomcat Dev being the environment type, and we're using the latest version. So we could have chosen new version, but because I'm using latest version I then created each of the packages manually. And then automatically, once that's finished, going through and install it and running the Tomcat 7 examples web apps, that's going to deploy the EAR file to that install that we've just done. It's also going to run a Java project, which is just going to basically run a jar file on the target. If we get time, we'll go and have a look at that. And it's going to run a script in this environment and passing in some environment variables, command line arguments. It's going to run all of those in parallel, and when the last of those is finished, it's automatically then going to go into the test environment and do exactly the same thing in the test environment here. So first install the binaries, then run those 3 different projects. Then we're going to do a promotion. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that version that we created and we're going to promote it from development to production. So this moves it to a separate area on the file system, which is those packages that have been approved for deploying into production. In Nexus, this would be staging, what they would call staging. Then we're running a REST call. So this we can just quickly have a look at the job step here. So we're using a REST call step. There are lots of job steps depending on which plugins you've got installed. So we can do a check on a file to see if something changes on a local or remote file. A job plan execution step. This means call a job plan from another job plan. So we can make a call to another job plan, and that can have a whole load of steps. We have a manual step. Here we've got some sort of social media type steps. There are many different steps, but this one is a REST call. So making a REST call out to a change management tool, and we're checking that the status is correct. So we're just checking for a regular expression. We're going to poll that to infinity, effectively, every 10 seconds, and until we get this status closed. Now we can put a failure response in here, in which case, if we get a different regex, which is a failure regex, then that will fail the job. Okay, so I'm going to close that. So then after that REST call, we're going to do the production binary install if it's not already there. And again, we're going to run these 3 projects again, so the server orchestrations, but this time it's in the production environment. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is I'm going to have a quick look at the rollback scenario. So assuming that this gets to the end and we don't like the result that we get when somebody goes in and tests it, or we find some functional issue, then this is going to roll back by promoting the rollback version into the promotion store, and then just running the rollback version into those environments. Now, at this moment, we don't have a rollback version, and we'll probably be warned about that because this is the first version that we're deploying. But subsequent to this, we will then be able to run rollbacks. And here we've got the failure branch, which is only running in the production environment, and it's just redeploying the rollback version of the examples web app war file, and it's rerunning the Java deploy job. We've decided it's not necessary to rerun the script demo, and it's not necessary to rerun the installer, because if it's already installed, we're not that bothered at this point about reinstalling it, and if it isn't installed, then it's the first time, so we're not really bothered either. So that's a quick look at the pipeline, but at the moment there are no approvals in this pipeline. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to security, and I'm going to go to security groups, and I'm going to create a security group. I'll create one called Tomcat Production Approvers. I'm going to put MV-admin in it, and I'm going to add the environment of Tomcat Production into this approval as well. I'm going to create that. So now I've added myself into the approval group, and normally I wouldn't, of course, do that. There would be a separate group just for approvers. And if we now go back to the job plan, we'll see when we scroll along here that we now have these little approval boxes that have appeared in front of this Tomcat production environment, because we added the Tomcat production environment to that approval group, and we added a user to that approval group. So I will get asked to approve that deployment now when it goes into production. So we can just click off to run this deployment. I could actually, when I've completed it, make this job plan public so other people can see it, or I can just apply it to a particular group. There is only one group at the moment, so that's the only group that shows up. But for now, I'm going to just keep that as private, and I'm going to run it. I could, of course, schedule it here at this point, and if I did that, then it would show up in the schedule calendar, and I'd be able to see that, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to run it directly. Okay, so here we're seeing that it's warning me that the deployments, the rollback won't work because there is no rollback version for this case, but I'm just going to ignore that. In fact, I'll just refresh the page to remove that. And here we can see the running jobs panel, and you can see running jobs that are coming from anywhere. If I click on the tick box, I can see the pipeline. So this icon shows that this is a pipeline. This is running the Tomcat 7 install first of all. I can look at the console to see what it's doing, and it's just waiting for this to complete at the moment. So I can go and have a look at this particular job that's running by clicking here, and I can see, okay, this is copying files onto the target. It's got quite a large file to copy, so that might take a while. You can look at the console here as well to see what's going on. Okay, so this is now run on a little bit further. So we can see which jobs are running. You can always see which ones have completed, of course. Let's see how the pipeline is doing. Okay, so we're now through the development environment and we're into the test environment. I'm just doing the last piece, the script demo 40 on the test environment. I'm getting emails here telling me that these things have completed because I'm set up on emails. Now we're getting the promotion. Those have all completed. Now we're doing the REST call. And now it's waiting for approval into the production environment. Now I will get an email telling me that, but of course I can always, if I'm anywhere in the app, I will also see a little tab here telling me that there's an approval waiting for me or for somebody in my group. And I just click on that and I see my approvals waiting for me. Normally when you log in you go to the dashboard, but if you log in to do an approval you'll just see a list of approvals waiting for you. These are some RSS feeds that are coming in that I set up to just say that some jobs, so I've subscribed to those projects and then it's telling me that those jobs have completed. So I'm just going to approve this. And now that job will run, so we'll go back to the running jobs. We can see the pipeline now continuing there to the binary install. We can go and again have a look at that and see what it's doing. Again, it's just doing that copy. We can go and have a look at the previous jobs that have already completed. We can look at the we can't look at any pipeline jobs that are non-finished, but we can look at the actual project jobs. We can open any of the project jobs. We can scroll down and see exactly what was run. You know, on that project job, we can go and look at any of the tasks. Here's a task that's just creating a profile, a test profile to set some environment variables. We can look at any tasks we want. So let's go back to running jobs. This is still going on. Okay, so what we can do now is, while that's going, is very quickly go and have a look at the Tomcat Demo. So we can see the examples web app dev is running and it's saying hello development world. That was the data dictionary value that we included in the Tomcat development environment, and we can should be able to do the same thing in the test environment, and here it says test world. It just shows the differences of what we injected into the environment. Okay, so this is now continuing on through to do the install on the production environment. It's completed that. Go and have a look here. We now have some more approvals to do. So we'll refresh those. We'll approve these. Just going to go ahead and approve all of these. So we go back to running jobs. We can see that those are now running in parallel, all three of those jobs. And when this is completed, we'll be able to go and look at the previous jobs. We'll be able to see the pipeline job, and we'll be able to drill down and see all of the logs from all of the jobs in all of the environments that we've run. Okay, so that's now completed. Let's go and have a look at the previous jobs. Now if we go on pipeline jobs, we see that previous pipeline job. We can of course look at the full log of that pipeline job, or we can just look at any of the individual job IDs and that will take us straight to the job ID. So if we look at the latest production one, we can go to that, and again we can see all of the individual tasks that ran and what actually happened with each of those. Go and look at the script runner task, see the script that was run. Okay, various variables were set, green triangle here in production. And that just goes to show really quick overview of how RapidDeploy works. Hopefully that's been very clear to everybody, and hopefully I'll see you again soon when I look at some more detailed RapidDeploy functionality. Thank you very much.